everyone, and welcome to this Open Dialogo Q&A session. My name is Jo, and I'm the project manager for Open Dialogo. I'll be chairing today's webinar. I'm a white woman in my 40s with mid-length coppery brown hair, a red jumper and glasses. Please settle in, and I'm just going to run through some housekeeping things before we begin. As this is a webinar, Zoom functions slightly differently, so everyone joining us as our audience won't be able to use their camera or microphone. Only the invited panelists will be able to do that. We will be recording this session. It will only feature the panelists. This will become available afterwards on Stopgap Dance Company's YouTube channel. I'd like to welcome Claudia, our translator this afternoon. They will be simultaneously translating throughout the session. Some of our panel may speak in Italian. To hear the English translation, please select the interpretation icon, which has a small globe symbol below, and then under Listen In, select in English. If you wish to hear the Italian translation, please select the interpretation icon and under Listen In, select Italian. Our interpreter will manually control which language channel they are speaking in, so you will not need to switch. If you do not want to hear both the original audio and the language channel you've chosen at the same time, click or untick the original audio option to hear only your audio language channel. We also have British and Italian Sign Language interpretation this afternoon. Welcome to Nikki, Dion and Marcello from Interbrian. To select these interpreters, again, please click on the interpretation icon and the corresponding interpreter will appear. The interpreter should remain on your screen, but to pin them, please click on the three dots that appear as you hover over the video and click Pin. We also have live captions in both Italian and English. For the Italian captions, please select the CC button along the bottom of your screen and choose Show Closed Captions. Thanks to Elisa and Alice for the captions. The English captions are available via the link that Monique has posted in the chat. They will appear in a separate window via stream text. If you're unable to access the link in the chat, we have included this link on the email and the Eventbrite page. I'm just going to ask Monique to share that again. As this is a webinar, we do have a Q&A function where you can send questions throughout the sessions. Please select the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen and you will be able to ask questions to the panel. We'll have a moment for this at the end of the session. If you would like to ask a question using sign language or would prefer to speak your question, please contact Monique and they will be able to assign it to you so that you can ask your question through video or microphone. If you're having any difficulties setting up any of the interpretation or translation this afternoon, please send Monique a message via the Q&A function, or you can email them at monique@stopgapdance.com. We're very conscious that there's a lot going on in this webinar with the different languages and interpretations that are happening simultaneously. We have made the decision to make this webinar as accessible as possible while it is live. But if this is too overwhelming for you, we would like to suggest that you watch the recorded version of the webinar afterwards. Stopgap will create and post an Italian language and an English language version of this webinar, and it'll be published on the website shortly after the end of this session. They will both be subtitled. The playback Q&A will allow you to take your time to digest the information, and you can send us any follow-up questions by email or other means available to you. So now that we have started, I've given those introductions, I am going to take a moment to tell you a little bit more about Open Dialogo in its second iteration this year and how to apply for the programme. Bear with me a moment whilst I open and share my screen. I hope everyone can now see that. And we'll ask Monique to, again, include in the Q&A any instructions for adjusting this presentation on your screen if you are struggling to see it. I will largely talk to these slides as we go through them. There is a lot of information, so I will speak slowly. And again, there will be room for questions at the end. We have just talked through those interpretation tools, but I will leave that on screen for a moment just to take any time, additional time that you need to set this up. Now, on to Open Dialogo. So this is the second year of Open Dialogo, a project that promotes a bilateral cultural exchange through the sharing of knowledge between disabled and non-disabled artists and influencers working in England and Italy. This project is managed by Stopgap Dance Company and is commissioned by Arts Council England, the Ministry of Culture, the Performing Arts Department, the Italian Cultural Institute of London, and the British Council. And I'm delighted that we have Sabrina from the Italian Ministry of Culture joining us today. In this second year of Open Dialogo, we have had the opportunity to review and hear the feedback from the first year of residencies and webinars, and have been able to make some amends to this programme. This includes introducing a two-stage application process, the opportunity to network with prospective partners, longer time periods for the residencies to take place in each country, and a new online residency opportunity. I will talk about this a little further as we go through. I will now take the time to talk a little bit about the project that we want to see. Oops, forgive me. The residency programme will enable dance artists, companies and venues in England and Italy to explore disability, dance and inclusive creativity. We are looking for residency opportunities that might provide disabled dance artists wanting to develop new or existing work. This might be solo work made on themselves or any group work consisting of disabled and/or non-disabled people. A project might support non-disabled dance artists wanting to develop new or existing work that involves disabled dancers, or it might include disabled or non-disabled dance artists wanting to spend time observing or participating in the activities of disabled or inclusive groups to deepen their knowledge. The aim of Open Dialogo is to share best practice, experience and knowledge between Italy and the UK in and around disability, dance and inclusive practice. We are seeking to work with disabled artists or with disabled-led programmes across the residency. There is a requirement that 50% of the project team or artists involved must be disabled. I will now share some basic information of the commission funds available. This year we have up to £10,000 available per residency. This is the equivalent to about €12,000. We will be supporting a total of 4 residencies. 2 will be supported in each country. So we will be inviting 2 Italian artists to come to England to have a host organisation in England, and 2 English-based artists to go out to Italy and work with Italian organisations. This year, we do have a separate access budget for artists, which can be applied for as needed. When choosing the selected residencies, we will be inviting a selection panel of an impartial jury from Arts Council England, the British Council, and an independent disabled artist to review the applications and select those who will be participating. As I noted before, please note that the priority of the Artist Residencies is to promote disabled dance artists travelling to the opposite country. So this year we have introduced a 2-stage application process. We will be taking stage 1 applications, which is an expression of interest, and those applications are open now and will run to the 7th of March 2024. You can find the application form on Stopgap's website. We will then be announcing those decisions by the 21st of March. The decisions will be announced by the 21st of March, and those participants will be invited to submit a full application by the 30th of April. Stage 1 and how to apply. As I mentioned, the Stage 1 application form is available to download from Stopgap's website. You can use this application form, or if you would prefer, you can send us a video or an audio file instead. Your application should be emailed to admin@stopgapdance.com. We will have a selection panel of English and Italian speakers, so they will be reviewing your application. Please use either Google Translate or the form DeepL to provide an alternative translation as part of that. We also ask that you submit an equal opportunities monitoring form, which is also available from the Stopgap website. One of the things that we have extended this year is the window of time when the residency can happen. We are looking for this to happen between September 2024 and April 2025. So that must be a consideration when you are looking at your application form for this year. Stage 1 is designed to be much more light touch. The questions will be asking about you, your project or organisation, how it will support the development, your professional development, and or the promotion of dance and disability in England and Italy. It's worth noting that you don't need to supply a budget at the stage 1 application point. That will be part of the stage 2 full application form, but please do bear in mind the commissioning funds available when you are considering the scope and practice of your project. It's also worth noting that for stage 1, you don't need to have your partner in place. So this year, you do not need to have a host organisation if you are an artist looking to apply, or if you're a host artist who would like to welcome an artist to work with you, you don't need to have identified that artist prior to submitting your stage 1 application. This is because we will be hosting a networking event on the 27th of March for those artists and host organisations who are successful at stage 1. This session will aim to partner the two sides of the project ahead of one of those partners submitting a full application at stage 2. We'll be outlining the details of that session and the timing on the 27th of March once we have announced the successful candidates coming through the stage 1 application. To reassure you, if you're not available on the 27th of March or are unable to attend, this networking event is not compulsory. We will be looking to support that matchmaking process and making introductions between host organisations and partners through other ways. If you do have an agreed partner host or artist that you would like to apply with in stage 1, you will both need to complete a stage 1 application, and you'll need to include the name of your partner in this submission. You will then not need to take part in the networking event, and one of those partners will be able to submit a full application at the time. The important thing to note that as part of these residencies, the English artists going to Italy must work with an Italian partner that is working as part of the Artist Residency Program, that are signatories of the 2022 to 2024 residency program agreement in Italy. I'm going to ask my colleague Sabrina from the Italian Ministry of Culture to speak to this in a few moments, so she will be able to explain what that means in more detail. But for Italian host organisations, you must be a signatory of that agreement. Stage 2 applications will be released from the 21st of March and will have a deadline of the 30th of April. As I've previously mentioned, only one application is required per residency. The hosts and the artists will be paired together and will then choose a lead applicant to submit. The assessment criteria that we will be using, particularly at stage 1, will be looking to identify the track record or commitment of the artist or company in making inclusive or disabled-led work. So as I said, stage 1 is designed to be much more light touch this year, but we do want to be able to identify that as we are going through. We'll also be looking to identify the track record or commitment of the host organisation in supporting inclusive or disabled-led work. They will be marked by 60 points out of a total of 100. The second part of that assessment programme will be looking to score 40 points, looking at the legacy. So we will be asking whether there's an idea of where the projects might go next, what impact this project has in promoting dance and disability, as I've said. The residencies will be awarded to the proposals with the highest total points, and there's a maximum of 100 points available. Oops. This year, we have also introduced an online residency. This was part of the wider feedback, identifying those artists unable to travel. And we wanted to make this programme as widely available as possible and as accessible as possible. The details of that online residency will be available from the Stopgap website from May. There will be an opportunity for one residency, which will involve artists between Italy and England working together remotely. The budget that will be available for this residency will be around £3,000 or €3,500. Shortly, we will be moving to a question and answer session. But before we do that, I'm going to welcome Sabrina Canzoniere from the Italian Ministry of Culture to share a little bit more about that residency programme in Italy and the evolution of Open Dialogo. Sabrina, may I hand to you? Thank you.
Good morning, or rather good afternoon. I hope you can hear me. My name is Sabrina Canzoniere. I work at the Ministry for Culture in Italy, and I'm in charge of international promotion. I'm a woman in her 50s, medium height, white, and I wear cream-colored eyeglasses. I will tell you about the system of artistic residencies in Italy. Indeed, it is special. In the Italian system, the residency program is provided for and regulated under Article 43 of the Italian Ministerial Decree of 27th of July 2017, which governs the allocation of the contributions from the Single Fund for Performing Arts, now called National Fund for the Live Performing Arts. And this is very important in telling how much importance is attached to the performing arts by the Italian state. The article provides that the state enters into agreements with regions and autonomous provinces with the financial support for projects relating to the creation, promotion, and development of the system of artistic residencies. They can be experiences of renewal, of creative processes. They can involve mobility, national and international artistic exchanges, and increased access and qualification of demand. This is the intent, so that individual artists and the companies can devote a time to their creation process and approach. In the Italian context, which features huge local differences and also the cohabitation, so to say, of national and regional legislative and regulatory authorities, the residencies constitute a significant ground and space for interinstitutional cooperation. The system has been created because regions are closer to citizens than the state. So it is very important that they are the interlocutors for citizens in meeting their demands. This is the reason why a system has been set up in Italy involving 18 regions and autonomous provinces, which now has over 70 residencies in Italy, supported by the Ministry of Culture and the regions or autonomous provinces. When looking for possible residencies in Italy, please consider that we provided a sort of mapping, a map of all the available residencies to Stopgap. So please ask them for a list of possible residencies in Italy. in the various regions. What do we mean by residencies? Well, we mean venues, spaces for creation, which are specifically defined within an agreement which is at the very basis of the system of residencies. It is an agreement between regions and the state. They are then financed and funded in order to enhance them as factors of innovation in the performing arts system. These practices accompany the processes of artistic creation. The term residency, which includes two forms, which make up residencies in general. These two forms, have different features. They are called centres for residencies and artists in the territories. So they are places devoted to contemporary performing arts creation, characterized by a professional framework and management, promoting creative processes, fostering artistic diversity, with equipped spaces, technical facilities, professional skills, enabling individual artists or companies to benefit from these periods of residence, providing opportunities for professional growth and artistic creation on the very basis of a structured and shared project. This is, of course, then abiding by a number of criteria which exist at national level in Italy and also at international level, because you must know that we have also a series of projects for bilateral exchanges. So the activity of residencies is functional to the development, innovation, and renewal of the performing arts system. It must be characterized by project coherence as a point of reference both for artists in their creative process and for the production organizations in the system. This goes for the production side and the constant exchange of synergies with the local entities, with the territories, with the areas. This really fosters artistic discovery and growth. Italy counts many of these experiences. They normally are placed in very nice venues that allow creative artists to stay for a certain period of time there, and the costs are covered, and artists can so be inspired and contaminated. Some are dedicated to a particular or specific artistic discipline, but most, since we believe very much in the power of contamination and interconnection, where they are open, I was saying, to artists working in different fields and disciplines, going beyond the specific sector and discipline. And so artistic residencies represent a sort of suspended time to devote to creativity, a sort of path of artistic research free from external influences, where artists can devote themselves entirely to their work. This favors and is favored by virtual and virtuous encounters and exchanges of practices and knowledge, as is the case with Open Dialogo, which is a bilateral exchange project between Italy and England, which the Italian ministry supports very much. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Sabrina. I'm just going to take a moment for our captioners to hand over before I bring in Aristide Rontini, who was one of our dance artists who was involved in the residency exchange program in year one, and who is also acting as an independent advisor to the project board. So I will wait a moment and make sure that our handover is complete. and then I will ask Ari to join us. Alistair, would you like to turn your camera on and tell us a little bit about your experience last year? Thank you.
The microphone is off. Thank you. Thank you, Jo. Hello, everyone. My name is Aristide Rontini. I'm an Italian artist with disabilities, and I'm also a member of the board of Open Dialogo. I'm in my 40s. He, him. I wear black glasses. I have black hair, and I have a brown sweater on today. Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm very pleased to be here to tell you about my experience, which took place thanks to the first edition of Open Dialogo. My residency took place in September last year in England at the Northern School of Contemporary Dance in Leeds. I would like to commend the idea behind the project, which is to bring together artists with disabilities from one country and the other, and dance host organizations from the other country, to give support and impetus to the creative process of artists with disabilities. And the intent is also to spread awareness and practices on accessibility. And it is also an important cooperation that favors exchange of knowledge, practices, awareness on performing arts and disability in specifically. The opportunity has been very important for me also to expand my network, to meet new people and get in touch with situations that I did not know about before, but which I felt immediately very close to me, also in artistic terms. During my period in Leeds, I worked on my production entitled Back Eye Black, on which I was working last year. And the opportunity was very important. It was precious because it made room for me to expand and deepen a creative process that otherwise would have suffered from a rather tight production schedule. During the residence, I also experimented with both in-person and online modes of collaboration. It was me and the other two performance, and we also had virtual meetings with other artistic collaborators, including music composer and dramaturg. The mixed modality was a new way of working for me, very successful, I must say, because it made us all remain aligned in terms of the creative process, even from a distance, even remotely. In addition, it encouraged me to plan my working days better. And during the online sessions, a number of needs also emerged related to accessibility. I was not aware of them before, so it was useful to delve deeper into the accessibility needs of my group and look for solutions. At the Northern School of Contemporary Dance, I found from the very first email exchanges and online meetings before the residence and then during our stay, a staff that was knowledgeable and sensitive to the accessibility needs of artists with disabilities. Welcoming, open to dialogue, and open to finding solutions. I found a staff eager to make the most of the opportunity offered by the call and to get to know my work. During our stay, in addition to the 4 days in the dance studio, on the last day, we opened our doors to an audience, to the public. That included both students and teachers from the school, as well as from the Leeds community. The audience was able to follow a dance workshop activity, an open rehearsal of the performance, and finally we had a meeting and discussion on the themes of art and disability. It was a dialogue between me and Darren Carr, Vice President Director of Studies at the Northern School of Contemporary Dance. I really appreciated the collaboration in promoting the event open to the public between different institutions in Leeds, Northern School of Contemporary Dance, Yorkshire Dance, and Northern Ballet, which really worked wonderfully together in this respect. And I was able to meet them in person during my stay in Leeds, and so I expanded my network. Open Dialogo has been a successful, fruitful, and intense experience, an opportunity for artistic experimentation, exploration, and an opportunity to explore issues of accessibility for audiences and artists with disabilities in terms of traveling abroad, communication, working spaces, methods, planning, work, and artistic practices. It has been an opportunity for me to share my work in England, in Leeds, in terms of vision and dialogue and practice as well. And as I said, it has been an opportunity to expand my network. I would like to tell those who want to apply for this edition to remember that this is an opportunity and experience that can really give you a lot, as I have said, but it is 5 days of work and you then have the days of travel. So it is a tight schedule, so to say. You have to reckon with that. You have to plan well in advance your work, so that you can use the time you have there at best. And when planning, consider also your needs, your energy sustainability, the energy of other people with you, because it is 7 days you spend not at home working, overwhelmed by beautiful opportunities and yet also demanding time. So please consider that as well when planning. So thank you and good luck.
Thank you, Ari. It's great to hear about your experience last year and to share some of those insights and encourage people to apply this year. So it's now coming up to 1:45, and we have until 1 o'clock today to answer any questions that you might have ahead of applying to Open Dialogo this year. So I would like to invite Sabrina and Aristide to turn their cameras back on and join me in the event that we have some questions. And to invite our audience, if you do have any information that we have not yet covered that you would like us to answer, to please put that in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, and we will, as panelists, do our best to answer those. If you don't have any immediate questions, don't worry. The lines of communication are still open. You can email admin@stopgapdance.com with any questions that you may have following this webinar, and we will do our best to answer those as they arise. And similarly, you can find a lot of information about last year's Open Dialogo on the Stopgap website, alongside the information and the call out for this year's Artist Residencies. So there is information available. And as we mentioned at the beginning of this session, this recording will be made available on the Stopgap Dance Company website, YouTube site, I should say, within the next few days to be able to watch back. And as I said, any future questions can then be directed through to myself via that admin@Stopgap Dance Company email address, which I might ask Mo, who is Monique is working brilliantly behind the scenes for us today on the various technical aspects. So I must make sure to thank her too for doing that for us and then for popping that link into the chat. I can't see that we have yet had any questions come in. Mo, has anything come into you that needs to be answered directly? If you want to ping that into the chat to me. We've not had anything yet. We must have done a very good job of covering all of the detail ready for this session. I'm going to then invite my fellow panelists. Is there anything else that we haven't covered today that you think would be helpful to share with our audience whilst we wait to see if any further questions come through? One thing I was going to talk a little bit more about was around the budget, which, as I mentioned in my presentation, the available commissioning funds. I did just want to highlight again that there will be a separate access budget available for artists this year. So the £10,000 of commissioning funds will need to cover artist fees, travel, accommodation, subsistence, language interpretation, studio hire, and other costs that are incurred by the artist or the host. But those access costs for artists' needs and individualized needs can be covered separately. You may not know what they will be at the point of application, but if you are able to give us an indication of what that might be, or that you will need to access that budget at point of application, that is not a problem. We can make sure that we can cover that. I think that was the one thing that I didn't cover in my presentation that I took the moment to follow up with here. And I shall leave the screen open for a few more minutes just to see if we do have any further questions before we wrap up today's sessions. Well, it appears we have done a very good job of covering all of the detail today. I will then take the moment to wrap this up earlier
We
than
have some
planned.
questions.
Oh, we do, Mo. Fabulous. I had not seen that. Fabulous. I can't see those. Ah, here we go. I have now got that. Forgive me, everybody. So question number one, what would be the advice, for instance, I'm English, now living in Italy, so would that work between both countries? Sabrina, may I ask you to come in and answer that question?
Here I am. So, English living in Italy. Well, I think you should apply in England for a residency experience in Italy, because it is a bilateral program which entails the exchange between English and Italian artists hosted by the other country for a specific project. So since you are an English artist, you should apply in your country. And since you are in Italy, you can use the opportunity you are here to get in touch with Italian host organizations. And please consider that there is also matchmaking work done within the framework of Stopgap. But if you have contacts in Italy already, why not using them? You can certainly participate and apply in your country.
Thank you, Sabrina. I hope that has answered that question. I have a second question here to answer. Good morning. We are two people working without disabilities who work with dancers with disabilities. Is it possible for us to participate as training, working with them within our group? I would just say that as I mentioned when we talked through the eligibility questions, the priority for this is for disabled dance artists or for organisations working with disabled dance artists and inclusively. And the basic requirement is that there is 50-50 equal split representation from disabled artists and non-disabled artists. So I believe that project would be viable provided that there is an equal representation of disabled artists across that. It's about sharing best practice, learning and understanding between the two countries and between disabled artists and non-disabled artists. Sabrina, Ari, is there anything else that you would like to add, or do you think I have answered that question?
the call states that there is a specific percentage of disabled artists in the cooperation, and it is fundamental that an inclusive activity be carried out involving several entities, be it a company or not. Anyway, you must have the presence of artists with a disability, because that is the very core of a project.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sabrina. Our next question would like to know if the budget allocated to each residency is non-repayable, and if it will be given to the host organisation or to the artists. So the budget is given as a grant, with a maximum commission available of £10,000, which is about €12,000. And it can be paid to the artist or host organisation, the lead organisation, and it is to cover the costs. So there is no expectation that any of that finance would be repaid, and it gets paid to the lead applicant, I believe, but it is a grant and not expected to be repaid. I hope that answers that question. One final question, as we are running out of time and we do need to wrap up at 1 o'clock. I will answer one final question and then invite anyone who hasn't had a chance to ask their question to send that through to the admin at Stopgap Dance Company email address, and we will hopefully be able to follow up with that after the session. So the final question for today. Good morning. I am the choreographer of an inclusive dance company made up of a varying number of dancers. In the current project, there are 4 dancers with Down syndrome and 3 without disabilities and 2 choreographers. Is this too high a number to participate in the residency? Sabrina's nodding. Yes, again, I just go back to the very clear guideline and eligibility that it has to have 50-50 at least representation from disabled artists. So that is the baseline criteria. But to Sabrina's point, the priority is for disabled artists to be involved, and they must make up at least 50% of the project team. So when you're looking at the artists that you're inviting to be part of the project you're applying for, that is the baseline criteria that we are looking for to make that project eligible. So I hope that's answered those questions. For those that have put their questions in the chat today, thank you for sharing those with us. Please do keep in touch with us if you do have further questions, or if you'd like to recap any of the information we've shared today. This video will be made available on the Stopgap YouTube page within a few days. There is also full information on the Artist Residency call out available on the Stopgap website. So to bring this to a close, I would like to thank Aristide and Sabrina for joining me as panelists today, and for providing their important insights. I would also like to thank Dion, Nikki and Marcello for providing our sign language interpretation today, to Claudia for translating for us, and to Alice, Elisa, and to Norma, who I failed to acknowledge at the beginning, and I apologise. Thank you to Norma for providing our English captions today. Thank you everyone for being part of this, and thank you to our audience for coming along. I hope it's given a good and clear insight into this brilliant project, and has encouraged you all to apply to be part of it. And we very much hope to read your application in the coming weeks, and to welcome you as part of Open Dialogo. Monique has kindly shared the website details there, so please do follow up by having a look there. And we look forward to seeing you all soon. Thank you so much.